streaming. So hopefully this goes better than it has been the past couple of minutes.
Yep, I just got the notification that you went live.
Awesome. So it looks good. Just gonna promote it to my Discord really quick.
And the other Discords, like Tubes and Geek Apprentice?
No. I don't really promote in theirs. Zelda. Alright. Social. That's a weird name. Alright, you guys ready? Yeah.
Absolutely.
Did I just get a notification too? No. That's something else. Alright. Hello everyone and welcome. I am Jesse, or Game Over Jesse as all of you may know me. Here with us is Mike Tendo64. And
hello everyone.
We also have one of our good friends, Justin, here as a special guest. I think this is the first official discussion video that you are actually on. You were on the live stream and maybe a couple of other things.
No, I was in the live stream and it's just been around.
Alright, so today we're going to be discussing a bunch of different things about Link's Awakening, answering a bunch of questions that some people may have, giving our thoughts on possible amiibo support, if they are going to change anything, similar to how they did with Wind Waker, where they made the Triforce quest a lot shorter. In Twilight Princess, they took out 4, I think. Instead of getting 16 Tears of Lights, you were only required to get 12 Tears of Lights. And then they added in the bonus dungeon as well to Twilight Princess with the new Wolf Link amiibo. And with the original Link's Awakening, whenever they sort of, I wouldn't necessarily call it a remake, but whenever they updated it for the Game Boy Color, they added in the Color Dungeon, which was its bonus dungeon. And now that it's coming to the Nintendo Switch and possibly the 3DS, which is something we are also going to be talking about, we are going to talk about what kind of possible dungeon it could have. And for those of us who are on the stream that are familiar with the different areas in Link's Awakening where that possible dungeon could be, they could even add in an entirely new village or something for this version. Like they could take the base game as like 80% of what this is, and then 20% of it would be like new areas and stuff. That way the overworld itself is closer to what you would expect from a full $60 game, especially if you're coming off of Breath of the Wild for $60, as huge as that is, and then you get this game for $60 that has an overworld that's like not even like 5% of the size. So I wonder if they're going to just like add on a couple of new villages and stuff. But anyways, let's begin. So Mike, you and I, we had a discussion video a long time ago whenever this game was first rumored.
We did indeed.
The Link's
We did indeed.
Yes, the Link's Awakening 3D rumor seems like it was almost a year ago. I'm not even sure how long ago it was.
Far off. I think it was probably like, yeah, it probably was around about May time, I think, when it all came out. And obviously, you know, these rumors all spawned on from a certain someone, and it's just what you hear through the grapevine, and then people say, you know, oh, this game's got to be coming, this game's got to be coming, and then, you know, you, as you are, you know, you got in touch with us to see, you know, where did these rumors come from, and unfortunately they, you know, we've been hoping for a Link's Awakening game for such a long time now, And then, you know, there's these little hints in Link's Awakening, in Hyrule Warriors, for example, like the inclusion of Marin as a playable character in Koei Tecmo's Hyrule Warriors, obviously. But whether Nintendo had always been thinking about remaking Link's Awakening since then, I don't know.
So if we're talking about how long it's been in their minds, I think as soon as A Link to the Past ended up getting a successful reimagining, is what I call it. It began as a remake. There was sort of, I wouldn't necessarily call it an argument between Miyamoto and Aonuma, but I think what happened was Miyamoto wanted to make a remake of the original A Link to the Past for the 3DS, and Aonuma wanted to work on a brand new game, which is sort of the opposite of what happened with the Nintendo 64, with Miyamoto wanting to move on to make a game for the new console, where Aonuma wanted to use all of the stuff that they didn't use with the original Ura expansion, and then they ended up making using some of it for Majora's Mask, because Aonuma wanted to make another game for the 64, Miyamoto wanted to move on, and it's kind of swapped now to where Miyamoto was the one that was wanting to stay with an older game instead of an older console this time. He wanted to just redo an older game, and Aonuma was the one who wanted to make something new. But they ended up I can't, my mind is blank, I can't think of the word, but they ended up settling, and instead of a remake and instead of an entirely new game, it was a mix of both. They compromised, that's the word I was looking for. And their compromise, they ended up making what I call a reimagining, because half of the game was basically already made as a remake, and then they decided to just use that foundation of the overworld to make something new. That way both parties are happy. So I think with Ocarina of Time 3D, they said that immediately after that game released, Grezzo began working on Majora's Mask 3D. So I think it was something similar to where as soon as A Link Between Worlds began becoming so successful, they decided to start pre-production of this Link's Awakening. That's just my thoughts. We don't really have any developer stories or anything about the game just yet, but after the game releases, we'll find out when exactly it did begin production and everything. But as you said, they have been sort of hinting about it with I think it was DLC for Hyrule Warriors. I don't know if it was an actual thing. And there was a lot of people that thought, like, there was a bunch of other characters that people were wanting. No one was really thinking of Link's Awakening being the first mobile Zelda game, being so outdated, having some of its characters represented in HD and 3D as 3D character models.
Yes, because a lot of people wanted like Skull Kid in Hyrule Warriors now in the Wii U version, and he didn't come until much later. I think there was actually a costume for Lana as Skull Kid rather than Skull Kid, and then it sort of came in, I think, with like the 3DS version. So when Hyrule Warriors Legends came along, then we got the Skull Kid. But I think Marin did come slightly before then. I just can't remember.
Yeah, so this, from what I did look up, and of course anyone can really edit, so it's hard to really tell, but I had read that it was Nintendo, what is it? Nintendo EPD was the development company that made Link's Awakening, so it wasn't a third party, like how they get Grezzo or Tantalus or some of these other. In the past they've used Capcom as well, but this was made directly by Nintendo, and Nintendo EPD is actually the same one that had the team that worked on Breath of the Wild. They had their team that worked on or at least part of the team helped with A Link Between Worlds. Part of the team helped with the Twilight Princess HD, Triforce Heroes as well. So it's at least part of the team, because Nintendo EPD is separated into, I guess it's different teams. Honestly, it has to be a bunch of different teams, because they have like 5 or 6 different games come out each year. So maybe that's just like the floor or the building that those teams are working on, and then they have like EPD 1, EPD 2, if that makes sense to anyone that's getting a little bit in depth.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, there was multiple teams that were working on, for example, like Breath of the Wild. I mean, I think even is it Platinum Games turned up, or was it Monolith Soft? They lent a hand.
I think it was Monolith Soft. They hired like 180 or 170 developers from the team that worked on Xenoblade to help with the overworld on Breath of the Wild. But anyways, getting back on track, I would say they had this in their mind, but they didn't start development of it until maybe 2 years ago, because this is a game that I don't imagine taking very long, even with a small team. I just don't see this game taking very long at all.
I mean, obviously, if it's taking respect of the other games, for example, like Ocarina of Time and the Ocarina of Time 3D, you know, they had these models to work with to start with. Now, as we're talking like sprites on the original Link's Awakening, I don't imagine they probably had to develop everything from scratch this time around. They've used it as a base, but they've really had to like. So we could be talking a bit longer, really. I don't think it's probably just in the last couple of years they thought, hey, let's make Link's Awakening. I think they probably had this in the bag for a little while.
Yeah, I could see it like beginning sometime after Triforce Heroes. That was about 3 years ago, I think. And then with patterns Nintendo has with their mobile games, I've talked about this a lot in dozens of videos. I bring it up quite often because there's a lot of people that think Nintendo just makes like one Zelda game every 5 or 6 years, and then they forget about the smaller games or the remakes or the third-party games. But with their handheld games specifically, going back to the first game on the DS, Phantom Hourglass, I believe it was 2 years after that game released, they had Spirit Tracks. And then 3 years, I believe, after Spirit Tracks, they had A Link Between Worlds. And that extra year was probably because they were working with new hardware, new engine, new character models and everything. But then 2 years after A Link Between Worlds, Triforce Heroes released. So if you keep with the pattern that they set for the past almost 10 years with their handheld games, the Nintendo handheld team that works on the handheld Zelda team, whenever they make a game for a console, it'll usually take 2 years to produce and release that game. But then when they move to a newer console to where they have to work on a new engine, then it basically adds on a year, and then whenever they make another one for that console, it's 2 years. So I've been saying for a long time that it's been over 3 years since the last handheld Zelda game. So we've been due a handheld Zelda game for a long time. And I hear whistling coming from somewhere, but I don't know what that is. I'll have to go check in a bit. But yeah, like, I've been expecting this. I honestly expected it. Mike dropped out. I've been expecting it since E3 last year, honestly. But anyways, Justin, you've been quiet this whole time. So just shut us up and tell us your thoughts on all of this before we move on. And actually, I'm going to go check to see what that is, because I have no idea. Alright, I guess Mike's going to be back. So yeah, Justin, just tell the chat what you think while we're gone. Sorry, I gotta go check on this. Maybe he had a phone call or something, but I'm gonna go see what was whistling.
I think, you know, maybe it was more of like, the whole, you know, A Link Between Worlds did really well, and, you know, that was just more of a, you know, just a reimagining of A Link to the Past. So I think that it was more, I think what Nintendo did, it was more of an impulse thing, and they were like, well, A Link Between Worlds did good, so why don't we, remake A Link's Awakening, since all of our other remakes have done just as well. So, and then, they chose, they wanted a different art style, so they were like, we've already done all these other ones, why don't we try something different? So.
Well, they definitely did do something different. I mean, when you saw the opening cutscene, and I was like blown away by the opening cutscene as it was coming, and you got the waves crashing. You think, oh, what is this? It's very like anime, and then you get the actual gameplay style, and it's very, very like a chibi kind of style. So I'm wondering if Nintendo's got some kind of like Funko Pop Link going to be coming out at some point, maybe.
Well, I mean, I know they already have the little things they do. They have like those little chibi figurines they make that you could like see at like GameStop or Walmart or your local electronics store that they have. And it like, that's when I first saw that, I was like, hey, it looks like those toys they make. And like, maybe that's where they're coming from, or just trying to reach maybe a younger audience, because that's how most kids get involved. That's how most people become Zelda fans. They start off as kids and they just grow and they get older. So maybe it's their attempt to reach the next generation by putting something more cute and cuddly.
Yeah, so whenever I seen this, I instantly thought it looked, someone even shared an image of one of the elves from it, but I thought it looked like the Christmas holiday specials where there was like the claymation stop motion thing. That's what I thought this looked like.
Yeah.
I kind of expected this. I think it was earlier in the live stream that we did before this was announced. I was thinking, like, I had said out loud, like they had done like Yoshi's Woolly World or whatever, and they had done all of these different aesthetics, like Paper Mario and stuff, and I was thinking, like, well, when are they going to do something like that with Zelda? Because Aonuma had an interview a little bit after Breath of the Wild released, where he said that he wanted to evolve what we think of a 2D Zelda, and I had no idea what he meant. If we took it literally, he'd already evolved 2D Zelda, because technically, ever since Phantom Hourglass, they haven't necessarily been 2D, they've been 2.5D, to where everything is made from full 3D character models, so it isn't necessarily 2D anymore. So how could you evolve from that? And I guess what he meant was evolve the art style instead of like gameplay mechanics or whatever, because even with A Link Between Worlds, when you zoomed in, or the camera would zoom in when you would become a painting on the wall, so you would go from a like a 2.5D camera angle with a 3D model to a full 3D camera angle with a 2D model pasted on the wall, just like a flat painted 2D model. So again, that already evolved even more what a 2D Zelda would be, because it would shift from the 2D aspect ratio to the 3D, not aspect ratio, 2D view to the 3D view. So I don't know how he would have been able to do it, but I guess he was just simply meaning the art style, evolving what we think of the art style, because there's subtle differences between A Link Between Worlds and Triforce Heroes, but even with those, when you look at this, there's a drastic difference in art style. So I would definitely say if this is what he meant, then he definitely evolved what everyone thought of the art style. And then I wonder if they're going to have cutscenes built into this where they use the animation style that they had from the little intro they used with him on the ship, or if that's just going to remain the intro. But yeah, that's my thought on all of that. I like it. I think it looks good. I can't wait to get an amiibo or something that looks like it, which was another thing that we were gonna discuss later on. So yeah, back to you guys.
Well, I was thinking is, they're talking, definitely the art style, just I wonder if it's going to become one of those things where, you know, I just saw this on Facebook or whatever, you know, the whole 2002, you know, Wind Waker comes out and, you know, people are hating because of the art style, not even just because of the game itself. So, and then like the first thing you see when you look at the video for the trailer, it's, oh, you know, the game's great, but this art style I don't have a problem with or whatever, you know, or I have a problem with it. And it's just like, yeah, but you said the same thing about Wind Waker, and now it's critically acclaimed. I mean, is it going to be the same thing when it comes out? Is this game going to be hated because of the new art style, and then 10 years down the road, critically acclaimed and loved because of it?
Very most likely. I mean, there's always going to be somebody with an extra grind and doesn't quite like something, and then would like to let the rest of the world know about it. And though I personally would say I'm not a big fan of the artwork, I mean, I would still get it, I'll still buy it, and I will still play it because, you know, I do enjoy Zelda games. I enjoy Zelda games very, very much. And I'd like to, I always look, as a reviewer of video games as well, I try to look beyond just the visual aspect and actually get down to the gameplay mechanics of it as well, because that's really what we play games for, isn't it? You know, for the gameplay.
Yeah, with the gameplay on this, I'm glad they moved away from the stamina bar they had with the Link Between Worlds, so that, or at least I didn't notice the stamina bar. So you're back to when you have arrows, you don't have an infinite supply. You have to find them, and I think that's something that a lot of fans that are coming off of Breath of the Wild are looking forward to, because now you don't have to wait for your bomb rune to catch back up. You can actually collect and store bombs with your bomb bags and everything, and you're going back to actual themed dungeons. So I think it'll be a really fresh experience for people, and because it looks completely different, and even in some of the areas that they've shown off, there are minor differences in the layout and stuff. So yeah, I expect everyone who, after playing Breath of the Wild, said they wanted a traditional Zelda, while the characters in the game may not be traditional, all of the gameplay and everything is, because there's a lot of characters from the Mario series, even Mario himself, that appears in Link's Awakening as other characters. Like, instead of a Chain Chomp, you get a Bow Wow or whatever. So yes, it's like the same characters just named differently. So yeah.
And I was sorry. I was just gonna say, and I think it'll be good because, like you were saying, you know, Breath of the Wild is such a different game, and like I've talked to a lot of people, and a lot of people, Breath of the Wild is their first Zelda game. So it's like they don't know what we've experienced, you know, like the whole cutting grass to find rupees, or, you know, finding an item in a dungeon and, you know, being able to use it to defeat the boss, or not having your weapons break, you know. I think and to beat on the home console, it'll definitely be to a wider audience, for especially those who bought Breath of the Wild for the first time. They're gonna be like, oh, so this is on Switch too. I like Breath of the Wild, so I'll probably like this game too. And, you know, that reaches an even greater audience. And then they say, oh, wow, this game is actually, it's different from Breath of the Wild, but it's really fun. Maybe I should check out some other Zelda titles too.
I think so. And also another point, because there was all this rumors going around that they're thinking about making a Switch mini version or something like that. So, you know, more like a handheld. So perhaps this game is more, you know, directed at being for handheld play rather than on on the TV in docked mode. So perhaps they've gone back to like the handheld game-esque, because obviously there's a lot of mobile titles on the Nintendo Switch as well, and they're probably using Link's Awakening. So it might be like to help, I suppose, get people accustomed to playing the Switch outside more, and, you know, out and about and independent from their TVs, perhaps.
Possibly. I mean, there was talks of Nintendo just becoming a third, like a Sega, and just making games for other companies.
Yeah, there was that discussion, but there was an interview it may have been with Reggie or someone that said that, well, like when you, it would take like 3 to 4 sales from a third-party game to equal the same amount of profit that you would get from releasing a game on your own console. That's how, like, third-party games, because they're selling on PC and PlayStation, Xbox, Switch, and everything, they can sell like 10,000 copies as an example, and then, or not 10,000, 10 million. And then a first-party Nintendo game will sell 2 million. And you'll think, wow, they probably didn't make a lot of money from those sales, because it's, you know, a fifth of what this third-party game that isn't even nearly as good made. But because they're selling on their own console, they don't have to split that price with anyone. So that game would be making just as much or more money than the game that sold the 10 million. And then if you take that 10 million and just say that 1 million of it sold on the Switch, Nintendo gets a cut of the money from the 1 million that sold on their platform. So they get, I forgot what it was like, but yeah, he explains it a lot better. But it is basically, they're better off with a platform that doesn't sell that well than they would be going just third party, because they're still making tons of money from their accessories. They recently began selling their consoles at a profit, where they used to sell it like, I forgot what it was. Yeah, the Wii U would sell at a loss, and then they said, to answer that, I remember they had an interview where they said that yes, the Wii U is selling at a loss, but usually when someone, at that time, when they would first buy the Wii U, they would also buy the Pro Controller, or they would buy 2 or 3 games. And they said by the time someone buys a Wii U and buys 2 games, the profit from those 2 games with the Wii U would make up for the sale. So they're selling at a loss, but they're making more money from
recuperating back from
exactly.
games.
So
well, I mean, yeah, 2 games is like $120, so
yeah. And then
there's also the other thing, when obviously if Nintendo were to sell third party now, you see a lot of like these third party games, they go on sale. So I mean, like even God of War, you know, it hadn't even been out for, you know, a year. Or like the Ubisoft games, they come out in like the first 4 months or so, they're like $50, $60. But now you look at Starlink on any other console, including the Switch, and it's dropped down to like $30, and that's the starter pack. And they just go for a few months, and then they have this huge like discount on them. But Nintendo games still stay, you know, up at the 50, 60 margin. So of course, you know, on the other consoles like PlayStation 4 and Xbox One, they're going to be selling 10 million, because after a few months they drop the price about half, so they're going to sell twice as many as they would do if they kept them at full price.
yeah, they I forgot what it was, but they also I got a bunch of things in my head. I used to work at a used game store, and we had a discussion about the main manager and I, to where we were looking at all of the first party games and even the third party games that were out, and after just a few months the prices would drop to $40, or if they didn't sell well they would drop even lower to $20 or $30, and then Nintendo games would still be a full price. Like you could go and buy like a DS or a 3DS Pokemon game, like even X and Y, that's a few generations old, and it's still the same price as a copy of at the time, like Black and White 2 was the main game that was out, and they were the same exact price, even though the game was 2 generations older. And then all of the other games like Super Mario 3D World and everything. And that's why when PlayStation or these other companies make a game that ends up being dropped in price, no one really makes a big deal out of it. But whenever Nintendo has games that they drop in price, like their Nintendo Classics or whatever they call them. I forgot the brand that they go under, but like
The Nintendo Selects.
yeah, they like on the Wii U they had dropped the price of Wind Waker to $20. They dropped the price of Super Mario 3D World to $20 and some of the other games, and everyone makes a huge deal about it because it's Nintendo games. Everyone, even if the game's 4 years old on the last generation console, if you go to buy the game new, it's still $50 or $60. So, like right now, if you go buy Twilight Princess for the Wii U, you're still paying $40 or $50 for it, even though it really should just be the $20, like Wind Waker is. So, yeah.
Well, you never know. Perhaps in about 6 months or in a year, we'll get Twilight Princess HD Nintendo Select titles for $20.
Yeah,
I mean,
give
there's
it to us
still
on the
releases
Switch.
for 3DS now. Yeah.
But the next thing that I wanted to talk about with you guys is, I mentioned this briefly before we began, but with Nintendo, every time they've done a remake for a Zelda game, they have labeled it for the system it was on. So, for instance, Wind Waker was an HD remake. They placed HD after the name. Twilight Princess was an HD remake. They placed HD in the title. Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask both had remakes. They placed 3D in the title because they were on the 3DS. This game, however, being a remake, is the only Zelda remake that they have not placed 3D or HD after the title. So it makes me think that we will get a later announcement that they are releasing it on the 3DS as well as the Nintendo Switch, and it may even be a new 3DS exclusive like Xenoblade is on the new Nintendo 3DS.
Nintendo 3DS.
So the reason they left it blank is so they can add 3D or HD either or to it for the console that you play on. And then
that is a possibility. That is a possibility. Now, also to bear in mind, the HD versions, for example, like the Wind Waker and Twilight Princess, they were HD because they took the game and they put it into more high definition graphics. As regards to Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask for 3Ds, because they integrated 3D aspects to it. Now, Link's Awakening's already had a DX version, so we know that Link's Awakening Deluxe is not going to be coming. But they could always go with Link's Awakening Ultimate, perhaps, because when they released the Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, they'd already had Deluxe for Melee. Melee was the original Deluxe, so they couldn't have it in Japan for Deluxe like we've had Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, we've had
Super Mario Bros.
U Deluxe with Funky Kong mode.
Is that is that the name of it? The new Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe? I'm not even sure. Like, it's got such a wacky title to it, and even on the 3DS.
Yes, it is. It's new Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe.
Okay, yeah, that is an insane name. I made the joke when I used to work at the video game store that with the 3DS and the new 3DS, you had games with new in the title that would play on the 3DS and the new 3DS, and you had games without new in the title that would play only on the 3DS. For example, Xenoblade would only play on the new 3DS, but then you had games like New Super Mario Brothers that would play on both. And I would like people would come in and be like, I have a normal 3DS, do I need the new 3DS to play new Super Mario Bros? And we would say no. You can play it on either. And then they would ask for other games, and it's like, well, that only plays on new 3DS, not the normal 3DS. And then they would be like, why isn't it marked new? And then basically,
because the new in the title doesn't have anything to do with the only being on that system. It's for the new Nintendo 3DS.
And then you also have people that's like, can I get a used copy of new Super Mario? It was just like the weirdest. Nintendo always had the crazy names.
I can't give you a second-hand copy because then it wouldn't be new, would it?
Yeah, and then you have newer Mario games like Super Mario 3D Land that was newer but didn't have new in the title. So if they came in and asked for the new Super Mario game that had just released and they just say new, you don't know if they're talking about Super Mario 3D Land or the one that actually has new in the title. It's just so bizarre. But anyways, they've seemed to have scrapped that and just gone like with Mario Maker. It wasn't new Super Mario Maker, it was just Mario Maker. So hopefully we're getting away from that new thing. And this
New Link's Awakening.
There was a lot of people that thought originally A Link Between Worlds, because that was around the time they had started this new trend of putting new in the title. A lot of people thought A Link Between Worlds, because this was also around the time where Aonuma said that he wanted to change the Zelda formula to create a new standard in Zelda. So a lot of people thought the Zelda game would come out and just be titled The New Legend of Zelda, and it ended up becoming A Link Between Worlds. And I think there was even an interview with Aonuma where he said that some people at the head of their development team had even suggested that they call it New Legend of Zelda. But anyways, yes. So, just Justin, what do you think Link's Awakening, 3DS or Switch?
I actually have two ideas.
Okay.
Well, one, I think yours, yes, is possible. You know, they could have either be doing it because they did the same thing with Smash Brothers 4, for it was Wii U and 3DS.
Oh
so,
yeah.
Yes, that is completely possible.
Fire Emblem Warriors was a more recent game that released on the 3DS and the Nintendo Switch on the same day. So.
Yeah.
But sorry to interrupt you.
That's okay. But you could also do, because, maybe they're not putting HD or anything because this is, for all the other games that they redid, like Majora's Mask, Ocarina of Time, Twilight Princess, Wind Waker, there wasn't, in the graphical style, and it wasn't that big of a shift. The games still look like they did on just like with updated graphics and such, but this is a completely different look. This is going from a 2D game to a basically 3D game with literal 100 whatever polygons to like just a 2D side scroller to like they could just be calling it Link's Awakening because it's Link's Awakening and it's a Link's Awakening for a new generation. That's what I'm thinking.
Link's Awakening. No.
Don't.
Don't. Please, Nintendo.
It could be worse. I mean, if you look at the Pokemon games now, we've just had Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu, Pokemon Let's Go Eevee, and the original was on the Game Boy Color, wasn't it? I believe. I mean, they could have done a similar thing with like Link's Awakening. It could have been The Legend of Zelda Let's Go Link's Awakening.
No, so another thing is that with Link's Awakening, they always give the games a sort of a tentative title, and I always call the tentative title thing comes from when Twilight Princess was originally being talked about. They didn't call it Twilight Princess, they had announced it as, or at least websites were referring to it as The Legend of Zelda tentative title. And then when the Wii came out, everyone just called it Zelda Wii, and then obviously Nintendo themselves called Zelda Wii U, or Breath of the Wild was Zelda Wii U. So with this, this could just be that placeholder title, just call it Link's Awakening until they figure out if they do want to call it Link's Awakening Ultimate, Link's Awakening Deluxe, Link's Awakening HD, 3D, New Link's Awakening, whatever they decide.
Let's go.
Yeah, whatever they decide, this is just the tentative title for it.
Placeholder now.
Yeah. So, with the next question that we're getting into, because we kind of mixed some of the questions together, but that's fine. I want to talk about with the possible price with this, because I kind of mentioned earlier with Breath of the Wild, it comes out $60. It's still a $60 game. If this game comes out and it is a full $60 price, how is that going to affect people? Are people going to buy the game at $60 and expect it to be 2, 3, 4 times, or have 2, 3, 4 times as much content in it as it actually does? Because the game itself, originally made for the Game Boy, barely has any memory to put games on. It's a miracle that you have games like Link's Awakening and the Oracle games on the Game Boy, because if you look at the file size, it's literally nothing. It's like one MP3 song. But anyways, I'm hearing something. I think we're getting feedback from one of you guys.
Okay, hold fire. Now?
Yeah, you fixed it. Were you hearing that too, Justin?
Oh, I thought that was me.
Okay, no. So, anyways, going back to the topic, what price point do you expect this to come out? Someone mentioned earlier, I can't find it now, but they had mentioned if this game comes out, it could be like Toad's Treasure Tracker, or whatever it's called, to where it's like a $40, $30 game compared to the full $60 price. Or they could do what they did with Wind Waker and Twilight Princess, release it at $50, but then have it come with a statue, a collectible, or the amiibo. It's making that noise again. But yeah, they could release it with the collector's edition figure to get that $60 price. Like Wind Waker came with the statue of Ganondorf, Twilight Princess came with Wolf Link. So they could do something like that. I made the joke earlier that they release an amiibo of an egg. So
yeah, I saw that.
Marin amiibo. It's got to be a Marin amiibo. I mean, we've got enough links, haven't we? Mind
yeah,
you, they could do a Link and Marin amiibo. The two of them together.
I think we would get at least 3 amiibo from it, because they would be missing out on a lot of people that would want that new Link. I don't even know what kind of... I can't wait to see what kind of art style name they give to it. But yeah, I'm looking forward to that, to see how they themselves describe it, or where they got the inspiration and everything. So that'll be interesting. But in that style, it would be interesting to have an amiibo like that. And then of course Marin.
I'm sure the popularity, or the thought behind that style is because of the huge popularity of Funko Pop figures. And they thought, hey, if we make a game that looks like Funko Pop figures, maybe people actually buy it as well. Those that have never had that have never played a Zelda game, but they see this game and think, hey, it looks like a Funko Pop and I like Funko Pop, perhaps I should play it. You never know.
Yeah. Justin, what's your thought on this? Do you think it's going to be the full $60 price point? Do you think it's going to be $50 but come with an amiibo? Do you think they're going to add on to the original game to make it worth $60?
Well, I mean, this is the first... I mean, it could be quite unexpected because this is the first time they're doing a remake in such a drastic way, changing it so much. So... But I mean, I think that, like you were saying, how people would feel. I mean, I think everybody, no matter what price they put it, people are going to complain. But I think that I do think they'll do they'll make some amiibos, because I mean they got to make amiibos for every game they put out because that's marketing, And then they have to add certain additional content for the amiibos, whether it's just something really small like with Breath of the Wild, or whether it's like a whole thing like maybe other games do. So I think they'll put maybe anywhere from $40 to $60. There'll be a few new amiibos, maybe Link, Marin, maybe possibly the Windfish. That'd be pretty awesome.
Oh yeah, that would be cool. Because they had the Guardian amiibo that was a larger amiibo, so Windfish would be really cool.
And then I think maybe they'll possibly add some extra content to it because it is a remake, and that's usually what they do. So they'll probably add some more content and add some support if something, maybe, because I was thinking earlier like how they have the little photos in the game. Maybe they'll add additional photos, or with the amiibos you could put get certain photos that are exclusive to amiibos. And then I would say put it out there with extra content, because they're probably gonna promote the game like they do and have multiple packs and stuff. So yeah, probably a lot of bonus content that they can sell and advertise and get money for. So
yeah, so you mentioned the photo thing with the DX version, the original deluxe remake or port, whatever you want to call it. They added the IGN even mentioned it in their list, where they added the photo place that wasn't in the original, I think, but the Switch has no camera on it. So I wonder if they would change that to something amiibo related. I don't.
They could do. I mean, also the original Game Boy, it also had the camera thing with it, didn't it? And the printer, so you could actually print out the photos.
Yeah.
Which was the thing at the time. It had the little printer that you could actually print out the photos that you took in game. And though the Switch version hasn't got that, like you said, perhaps they could use something with amiibo. Perhaps it would actually bring that particular amiibo figure into the game to take a picture with.
Yeah, there was what was it that was in the claw machine? There's the Yoshi doll.
There was a Yoshi doll and a few other things too.
Yeah, so I wonder if they'll do a thing to where you can use the amiibo to drop different dolls in there. I'm trying to think, but my imagination is running short, because the game, if you think about it on the Game Boy, it's so limited, but at the same time of it being so limited because of the technology it still had a camera, which is something that the Switch doesn't have. So it's not very often that you have a drastically less technologically advanced platform that is in some ways more advanced than the newer one, to where the Switch is hundreds if not thousands of times more powerful than the original Game Boy Color, but yet the Game Boy Color had functionality that the Switch doesn't. So how are they going to what are they going to do with that? I don't know.
Well, I think what they could do with the whole picture aspect, they can because the Switch does have screenshotting, and I think because I know they did the whole thing with Breath of the Wild where you can take pictures of Link in different positions and all that stuff, and they've been really pushing that with a lot of their games, even Super Mario Odyssey. They did that with the whole, you can move the camera around and then take snapshots or whatever. And so I think what they'll do is they'll actually add a camera function into there where you can take pictures of certain areas and whatnot, and maybe they'll even change it to where you have to go and take the pictures yourself of when things are happening. So
kind of like in the Wind Waker HD, when you had to go around taking certain photos as well, didn't you, for the pictograph
yeah,
thing?
and for Wind Waker, when you had to do the picto gallery or whatever with Lenzo and all that.
Oh, that would be cool.
So I mean, I think they'll definitely, and then plus even they have it to where you can, even if you were to take pictures, you can send them to your Facebook or whatever, and then that way, because there is the internet now.
Yeah.
So you don't need a printer anymore. You can just send it electronically.
It sucks. The basically the what you're talking about would have been perfect for Miiverse, kind of like Wind Waker, where you could just throw a bottle in the ocean and then some random person finds it and then makes their own message, throws it back in the ocean. So
like the stamps too.
yeah,
from,
and
like,
Twilight
Twilight
Princess.
HD.
Yeah. So that would be cool. So this is the last thing that I want to talk about. But if you guys have anything else to add, we can do it because we're closing in on an hour here. We're at the 50-minute mark almost. But what could they add dungeon-wise with the original remake that they did? They added in the color dungeon, some of the other stuff like the photo thing. But what could you see them adding to this?
Motion
I
control
can
dungeon.
see them.
A motion control dungeon?
Yes.
That would be interesting.
Like that's the first
I
thing
don't.
when I was like, they need, if they're gonna add a new dungeon and it's Switch, the Switch's emphasis on motion controls, or even a multiple player dungeon that you need multiple people to connect with.
Yes, that would be perfect. If they, I would absolutely love that. Wasn't it the original, or no, A Link to the Past? They had the. What was the name of the dungeon? The Four Sword Dungeon, or the on the
Four Sword Sanctuary. No, that's
the Game Boy Advanced. Holly's here. Hello, Holly. The Four Swords, A Link to the Past combo. They added in a new dungeon for it, but I forgot what it was. And I think you would go in and you would turn to the 4 different links because Four Swords was the add-on game, so it kind of gave you that Four Swords experience in A Link to the Past to give you a bit of a reason to go multiplayer. So I wonder if they'll do something like that, as you mentioned with this game, to where, because in A Link to the Past, it literally is you walk into the dungeon, pull out a sword, Link pops into 4 different links, I believe. And even in Minish Cap, it happens to where like you start out with just 1, but then as you progress through the game, you can turn into 2 links or 3 links or 4 links.
Yeah,
So
mirror images of yourself.
yeah. So it literally, as simple and stupid as it is, it's literally as simple as Link walking into a new dungeon, pulling out a new sword or a new item that splits him into 4 players. It is literally that simple because Nintendo's done it 3 or 4 times already with Minish Cap, A Link to the Past, Four Swords, everything. So it's really, really cool.
And hopefully we'll see something like that in the Switch version anyway, because like you said, if you got the Link's Awakening, it's going to be quite short as regards to being like a home console title. Obviously, as a mobile title, it's fine. Oh, not mobile, but handheld. So in the original on the Game Boy, where you've only got like 5 or 6 dungeons, people will probably be looking for something a bit more. This is probably that thing that's going to be that bit more, having a multiplayer dungeon that they can play with their friends in local play or online even.
Yeah. Another thing that I mentioned during the live stream, you may remember this, Justin, is the screen itself is like so, I can't even tell it, but like the screen on the thing is so zoomed out that if you look at A Link Between Worlds, the amount of space Link takes up on the screen is a lot more than what Link takes up on the Switch. Like it's like the camera is zoomed out twice as far, which makes sense because you have a bigger screen, so it can afford to zoom out, because even if it zooms out, Link is still going to be bigger than he is in the regular 3DS because the screen's just that much bigger. But with it being so zoomed out, I had the idea that maybe it's zoomed out so that there's more space for you to see multiple Links running around in that area. That was just a thought that I had. So
yeah,
that is a possibility because you can see more of the screen, the more of the area that you're in.
Yeah.
You'll be able to see enemies, appear easier.
Yeah.
And yeah, because if you've got like co-op play, you'll be able to see each other on the same screen, and it'll probably be something where you're limited to the same single screen until you like move up. So the dungeons will probably be like in a single screen area until you move on to the next part or to the next part of the dungeon.
Yeah. Even Triforce Heroes had something like that, to where if there were multiple people on the screen, it would kind of zoom out to where you could sort of see everyone, but then when someone goes off screen, it would kind of zoom in again on Link, but then you'd see like a bubble showing you which direction each of the other two Links were in. So they could do something similar to where if a Link goes off screen, then you'll just see his icon kind of off screen, like they did with Triforce Heroes. So yeah, that's everything that I wanted to talk about. So is there anything left for you guys?
No, I think I'm good.
Alright, Justin, is there any last thing that you want to talk about, or any final thoughts on Link's?
I think I'm good.
Alright, alright, well with that, Mike, why don't you go ahead and tell everyone who you are, where you came from, and why we love you.
Well, I can't answer why you love me, but I can answer the other questions. Hello everyone, I am Mike Longman of Mike1064. We are a news, reviews, interviews, giveaways, personal views website and all things Nintendo. So, you know, we are a group of gamers that just love Nintendo so much, and we like to share, you know, we do all the hard work, so, you know, we review these games, and then we get to share the information with you. So we're like kind of like a directory kind of thing. So I mean, it started with me looking for information about the Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. Before it was called Breath of the Wild, it started as this little blog, and then it just grew from there and there and there, and now Mike1064 has got about 14,000 followers. So, you know, we're doing okay.
Yeah, and if you guys follow the official Facebook for the Game Over Jesse fan page, it's just labeled Zelda News and Theories, because for some reason after a Facebook page gets so many likes, you have a lot more difficulty changing the name. So they won't let me change the name to Game Over Jesse, even though it is facebook.com/GameOverJesse, but the name of it is Zelda News and Theories, which is weird. I don't know why they do that. But anyways, if you go there, you'll see posts from myself, maybe a couple of others, but it also reposts blogs and articles and stuff that are posted on Mike1064. So you probably are already aware of his website if you follow the Facebook without even knowing it.
And thank you for letting us post to it.
yeah. And finally, Justin, who are you? What are you doing here?
I am.
When are you going to
Justin.
save that Zelda cartridge that fell behind your bed?
Oh no, I got it already.
Oh, nice,
so,
nice.
Yeah. My little.
What is the amiibo?
That is beautiful.
Oh, that's the Link Rider amiibo.
Oh, nice. I got this amiibo. It's pretty cool. It's a Kingdom Hearts amiibo. I got it yesterday.
Nice.
So if you can see
wow,
that.
That's on a, wow, that's wow, that's a
I
nice,
can't.
yeah.
It's kind of glowy because the screen's reflecting. But yeah.
Yeah, I see.
It says $50, but it was not $50. It was for some reason. So they called me yesterday, told me, because I had pre-ordered this Goku figure, because if you can't tell, I have an addiction. So if we just move a couple of these over. This one's like kind of shh. The platform fell off, sorry. But yeah, if you can't tell, I sort of have an addiction for these statues. Yeah. But what I do is there's if you go on eBay, like some of these statues are $30 or $40 or figures, whatever you want to call them. But you can find sellers that I imagine stole them off the back of a truck or something that sell them for like $5 to $10. But you have to wait like 2 or 3 weeks for them to arrive because like if you buy this statue in America it's going to be like $20-$30. But you can buy it from Japan for like $5 to $10, and then you just have to wait 2 weeks for it to show up. So that's what I do. And I've seen GameStop had a really cool deal on this Goku figure, because I try to buy one every couple of months, but they had a really good deal on this. And when I was there yesterday, the guy almost wouldn't leave me alone. Like, he was one of those sort of pushy salesmen. And then he told me that he would give 25% off of the statues. So with the Goku statue and the Kingdom Hearts statue, which I've been trying to do unboxings of them, which is why I started the collection to do unboxings. So everyone watching, you will see the unboxing of the Kingdom Hearts and the Goku statue. Anyways, I'm rambling, but I'm trying to say I got a really cool deal on the stuff, because it was both of the statues together were cheaper than the Kingdom Hearts statue would have been by itself at normal price, and that's including tax and everything. So yeah.
So you were asking me who I was?
Yeah, hi. Who are you? That's I get off topic a lot. I'm sure you've watched the podcast 1,000 times. Like Daniel,
yeah,
and he'll get off topic about something. I'll get off topic about something, and I think it makes Tubes or Ilya be like, when are they gonna shut up? Jeez.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I am Justin, or Halo Justin 1 on the online anywhere, and I've been playing Zelda basically my whole life, so I have quite a collection, as you can see. Not even everything's up back there. I am in school, and I just love Legend of Zelda, so I do my information. I know the whole timeline like the back of my hand, so
all right. If
super fan.
If anyone wanted to follow you on Twitter or anything to get more from you, where could they do that?
Just type in Halo Justin 1 on any of your social media, and all lowercase and then number 1, and that's where you'd find me.
All right. With that, thank you everyone for watching. Thank you to all the live people that have been watching for the past hour. Thank you, Mike, for coming on, doing this follow-up video. Thank you, Justin, for joining, who's also an awesome Patreon of mine, and Ilya's, I think.
And Tubes, too.
And Tubes. Yeah, that's insane. You're giving money to everyone. Save your money. Go to Subway. All right, bye, everyone.
Bye.